Guys, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing? If you are new, my name is Lizzie. You're welcome to my channel. So today I bring this gist for you guys. Let's dive into it together.
African Americans.
The solution to Africa is African Americans. We can't do without them. The growth of Africa is to take over by African Americans. They don't have tribalism. They are one. Black people, that's all.
Solution to Africa is nothing what you said. Tribalism is not the reason Africa is poor, which I'm assuming that's what you mean by the solution, my African brother. The solution to Africa is an African union so they stop being fucked over during trade negotiations. A solution to Africa is removing the 29 U.S. military bases that stretch from one side of the continent to the other. The solution to Africa is getting rid of capitalism. It's always been that.
I just want to go on a little bit more about her points because I watched the entire podcast episode with Jordan Peterson where these things have been said. And this is not a right or wrong or which side of the debate I'm on. It's just I want to elaborate on the points that she's made because they were actually really interesting points. And this is taken out of context because she said that, but she also named examples and where other countries that have been enslaved are striving today. And she said, obviously, it did have an impact and it's a horrible thing. But at the end of the day, the reason that differentiates them from countries that also have been colonized but are rising to wealth is the system that I have set up. So, for example, she named Singapore, which used to be under the Commonwealth colonization and stuff like that. But now they are really good financially off. And the reason why is because basically a lot of the other countries in the constitutions that were built on like a Marxist system. And what Singapore, or like Saudi, for example, did, even though Saudi wasn't colonized, is they changed it to a capitalistic system. So economically, the best system we can have is capitalism, just economically speaking. Obviously, socially, it has detrimental effect on the society, but economically, that is the best and only proven form that can actually last us to make an economy profit and make a country rich. Once you're rich, you can go to different points, right? And a lot of times, you also think about the Nordic countries, which are really social, when we talk about how socialism strives. But what she pointed out as well in the video is that all of these countries are really built on capitalistic foundations. So if you want to strive as a country, you need to make entrepreneurialism and really easy and accessible. So you need to let your citizens be able to build companies in that country for profit, and you need to make it as easy as possible, which these countries are doing, either by reduced taxes or just making it really easy to paperwork, whatever method they're using. So basically what she's saying, the way for profit or for a rich country is by the way of entrepreneurialism, and you need to culture and cultivate that. In a lot of countries, because, for example, in Africa, where they built it on Marxism and these communism foundations, they don't really do that. And secondly, also have a lot of corruption, which is also holding them capitalistically back. Also, I want to strive, on my opinion, is also one aspect which has the truth in it, but the exploitation that they're still experiencing, the land that's still owned by foreign people, have not been really commented on in that video. So I'm not talking about that. There's obviously a very multifaceted issue, but that's what she was saying, because when Singapore is thriving now, they used to be colonized because they have the system on an economically based government, basically. It's all about the foundation of the country, what they're built on. And she's doing a lot in Uganda, I think, where she was from. But yeah, I just want to say that.
So this is a very interesting and popular argument, so let's talk about it for a little bit. What I would like to do right now, as opposed to advocating for one side or the other, is provide both sides of this argument. Because this topic is fairly nuanced and fairly complicated, both sides usually misrepresent each other fairly often. So what I would like to do is talk about some of the literature and the theories behind this argument. A perfect representation of what this argument really is can be found in the title of two books. This one, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney, and this one, How Africa Underdevelops Africa by Stanley Igwe. The names of these two books obviously gives a pretty solid overview of what this argument really is. In How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, Walter Rodney unapologetically argues that as Africa was developing Europe, Europe was systematically underdeveloping the continent. Europe deliberately and drastically exploited Africa, and the effects of this exploitation can still be seen politically and economically on the continent today. The idea here was that any idea that capitalism brought by Europeans somehow helped Africa financially is a myth, it's a mirage. In reality, Africans need to understand what capitalism is and the damage and destruction, the carnage it's brought on our continent. This is Rodney's argument. Igwe, on the other hand, admittedly claims that his book is not necessarily meant to replace Walter Rodney's, mostly because that would be pretty difficult to do. Rodney's is a classic. And Igwe acknowledges that Rodney's book still has a place in the discourse here. However, he feels like a part of the argument that's important as well is the roles that African leaders played in the underdevelopment of our countries. Igwe argues that the origin of poverty and underdevelopment in Africa can be traced to Marxism and what could be called the blame colonialism game. Igwe articulates an argument somewhat similar to another passionate voice in this debate, the Ghanaian economist George Ayete. Ayete argues in several books that African problems require African solutions. And he claims that a lot of African leaders are always running to the West, either for ideas or for handouts. And their constant desire to play the victim card while berating the West, while at the same time constantly asking the West for money, is what's leading to Africa's economic collapse. In this particular book, Africa Betrayed, Ayete basically goes off on a lot of African leaders and points out all of their shortcomings and all of the ways that they have destroyed the continent. But on the other side of this argument, we have to consider the concept of neocolonialism, according to Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana. And we will continue with neocolonialism in part 2.
I want you to watch this video that I'm snatching now. It's a group of African Americans talking about their experience and what they think about Africa growing up. It's not different from what I think about them or what I think about other Africa, because the Western media never ever show any positive thing about Africa or any positive anything about the Black Americans. As long as you're Black, no. The Western media never shine a good light, show the beauty of the country, the success of the country. It's only about disease or hungry, dying children. And oftentimes, it's a charity, a way to get people to donate in Western world. Oh, please donate for these children. Oh, please donate $1. And who is asking for the donation is neither white man or white woman asking. By the way, this money doesn't go to any charity. It goes straight into their pocket. They have mansions with that. You know, I don't know how many of you are following the African Summit, but if you hear the speech from Ethiopian president that said that Africa need to own their own story, we need to tell our own story. We need a powerhouse media with our own people on the ground of every African continent, every Africa country in our continent, covering the beauty of Africa, from West, East, South Africa, anywhere. We need to reshape our image. And this is why Africa seems like everywhere, everyone have a problem with Black people, because the Western media never show anything. And when you ask who is controlling the Western media, if you don't know, it's Jewish. The Jews have CNN, BBC, MSNBC, all these kind of media. The Jews are in control of it. So, you know, for the longest, sometimes I wonder, but Ethiopian president is right. We need to tell our own story. We need our own media to tell our own story. Every time, Nigeria is such a successful country that produces most doctors. Even there's a lot more doctors in New York are from Nigeria than doctors in Nigeria. There are doctors in UK, everywhere. Many Africans are teachers there. They will never shine that light. They will never show you how much Africans contribute to their economy. But they're going to show you, oh, there's Ebola here, there's a disease, there's a poor kid here, there's a poor... Why not you donate to help them? They are all in Africa stealing the resources, using them to... If not Africa, France is nobody. France won't be anywhere. There will be nothing there. They won't have all this luxury brand in their country. They are eating. Their stomach is huge on what they're taking from Africa. Yet, every time they ask Africa, do you have library? Do you have universities?
Okay, so I just wanted to do a brief comment on what this video. Okay, one, the video turns the issue into poor people are wrong, they shouldn't be demanding more, they should be working harder, okay? Instead of, the government isn't doing enough to help the impoverished people move out of poverty, and they're not, giving them the resources, the service delivery that they're supposed to give them to ensure that people can work themselves out of poverty. They're not doing that, okay? As such, the missing middle class does have to bear the brunt of people not having enough money. But that's not a poor people problem, that's a government problem, because we elect government officials to ensure that we have our needs met and our services are met and that people have their basic rights, and they're failing to do so.
Okay, no, we're not doing this. It's not funny when someone thinks of Africa as a country. Firstly, in this day and age, there is absolutely no excuse to not be aware that Africa is a continent. Secondly, not only is this misconception of Africa really rude and pretty fucking racist, it's also dangerous. By viewing Africa as one monolithic country, people end up with images of poor, AIDS-stricken people governed by corrupt politicians. They think Africa is a place that can offer them nothing except maybe a gap year where they can find themselves while helping African children out of starvation. It's messed up. Africa is made up of over 50 incredibly diverse countries, all with their unique cultures, traditions, foods, beliefs, clothing, languages, and histories. I'm out of time, but I'm riled up now, so I'm going to make a part 2.
Yes, I'm vegan and this creator is 100% correct. The majority of the vegan videos that show up in my feed are extremely non-judgmental, but I have also definitely seen judgy vegan videos. These are the ones that claim that being vegan is cheaper and easier than eating animal products. As a vegan of 6 years who also spent a lot of my life being poor, I have noticed a few things about these videos. The recipes that they share are more time-consuming than they let on. They use a lot of fresh ingredients that require going to the grocery store very regularly. Many of those ingredients can only be bought a lot at a time, meaning that you will have leftovers that you need to figure out what to do with. If you are not a skilled cook who knows how to improvise, you're going to end up with leftovers that rot in your fridge and you've wasted money. Time is a privilege. Having learned cooking skills is a privilege. If you don't have much of either of those, the next easiest way to be vegan is to have money, which is obviously also a privilege. I choose not to eat animal products personally, but as a leftist, I'm concerned with everyone being fed.
Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you have not yet subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe. Just feel free to leave your opinion down below what you think about this video. And don't forget to turn on your notification too. Anytime I upload a video, you will be notified. Bye bye.